What happens when one of Hollywood's most enigmatic stars sits down with daytime television's most outspoken panel, only to have it all spiral into chaos? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that had everyone talking, where Johnny Depp faced off against The View's Joy Behar in what became one of the most intense moments in daytime TV history. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This is a masterclass in how quickly things can escalate when egos clash and boundaries are crossed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to want to miss a single second of this breakdown. The studio lights were blazing as Johnny Depp settled into the familiar curved desk setup of The View, his signature rings catching the studio lighting as he adjusted his dark blazer. Whoopi Goldberg sat at the head of the table, her expression already showing signs of the tension that would soon explode across the set. "Welcome back to The View," Whoopi began, her voice carrying that familiar, authoritative tone. "We're here with Johnny Depp, and we've got a lot to discuss." Joy Behar, positioned directly across from Depp, leaned forward with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Johnny, thanks for being here. I have to say, it's brave of you to come on a show where we actually ask real questions." Depp's eyebrows raised slightly, his voice maintaining its characteristic measured cadence. "Well, Joy, I've never been one to shy away from real conversations, though I'm curious what you consider real questions versus, shall we say, tabloid fishing expeditions." The studio audience stirred, sensing the immediate tension. Sarah Haynes, sitting to Depp's right, quickly jumped in with a diplomatic smile. "What Johnny means is that he's here to talk about his upcoming projects and his journey back to Hollywood." "Is he, though?" Joy interrupted, her voice sharpening. "Because I think we need to address the elephant in the room first. Johnny, your recent legal battles have been very public, very messy, and frankly, a lot of people are wondering if you've learned anything from all of this." Depp's fingers drummed once against the table, a subtle sign of his growing irritation. "Joy, I think the court of public opinion had its say, and more importantly, the actual court had its say. I'm here to talk about moving forward, not to relitigate the past for your entertainment." Alyssa Farah Griffin, positioned between Joy and Sarah, attempted to moderate. "I think what Joy is getting at is that accountability is important, and your fans want to know that you've grown from these experiences." "Accountability?" Depp repeated, his voice taking on a slightly mocking tone. "That's an interesting word choice, Alyssa. Tell me, when was the last time anyone on this panel was held accountable for spreading misinformation or making character assassinations on national television?" Joy's face flushed red. "Excuse me? Are you suggesting that we spread misinformation? Because I can tell you right now that everything I've said about your situation has been based on documented facts." "Documented facts?" Depp echoed, leaning back in his chair. "Joy, you've spent years painting me as some kind of monster based on allegations that were proven false in court, but I don't see you issuing any retractions or apologies." The tension in the studio was palpable. Whoopi tried to regain control. "Let's all take a breath here. Johnny, I think what the ladies are trying to say is that people make mistakes, and the question is how we move forward." "Move forward?" Depp's voice carried a bitter edge. "Whoopi, I've been trying to move forward for years while people like Joy here have been profiting off tearing me down. There's a difference between accountability and publicly crucifying someone for clicks and ratings." Joy slammed her hand on the table. "Oh, so now I'm the bad guy for holding celebrities accountable? You know what, Johnny? Maybe the problem isn't the media. Maybe the problem is that you can't handle being questioned by strong women who aren't afraid to speak truth to power." "Strong women?" Depp's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Joy, there's nothing strong about hiding behind a talk show desk to attack someone's character. Real strength would be admitting when you're wrong and apologizing for the damage you've caused." Sunny Hostin, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. "Johnny, I think you're being unfair to Joy. As journalists and commentators, we have a responsibility to ask tough questions, especially when it comes to issues that affect women everywhere." "Journalists?" Depp turned to face Sunny directly. "Is that what you call yourselves? Because real journalists verify their sources and report facts, not spread gossip and speculation as if it were gospel truth." Joy's voice rose to a near shout. "How dare you come on our show and lecture us about journalism? You're an actor, not a reporter. You have no idea what real journalism looks like." "You're right, Joy," Depp said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I am an actor, and as an actor, I know the difference between playing a role and being authentic. What I see here is a group of people playing the role of journalists while actually being tabloid entertainers. The studio audience was completely silent now, the tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Sarah Haynes looked mortified, glancing between her co-hosts and their increasingly agitated guest. "I think we need to take a commercial break," Sarah whispered urgently to the producers off camera. But Joy wasn't finished. "No, let's keep this going. Johnny, since you want to talk about authenticity, let's talk about your authentic behavior. Let's talk about the text messages that were read in court, the substance abuse issues, the pattern of behavior that's been documented." Depp's composure finally cracked. "Joy, you want to talk about patterns of behavior? Let's talk about your pattern of attacking men in the entertainment industry. Let's talk about your pattern of assuming guilt before innocence. Let's talk about your pattern of using your platform to destroy careers and reputations." "I destroy careers?" Joy's voice was incredulous. "You destroyed your own career, Johnny. I just reported on it." "Reported on it?" Depp leaned forward, his eyes blazing. "You didn't report on anything. You participated in a character assassination campaign. You took sides without knowing the full story, and you influenced millions of viewers to do the same." Alyssa tried desperately to intervene. "I think we're getting away from the point here. Johnny, surely you can understand that in the court of public opinion, people were just trying to process a very complicated situation." "The court of public opinion," Depp repeated mockingly. "Alyssa, that's exactly the problem. There should be only one court that matters, and that's the actual court system. But people like Joy here decided to create their own kangaroo court and appoint themselves as judge and jury. Whoopi's attempts to maintain order were failing. Johnny, I think you need to calm down. This is getting out of hand." "Calm down?" Depp's voice was filled with years of pent-up frustration. "Whoopi, I've been calm for years while my reputation was being destroyed by people who had already made up their minds about me. I've been calm while my career was being dismantled by a mob mentality that these very women helped create." Joy stood up from her chair, pointing an accusing finger at Depp. "You know what your problem is, Johnny? You can't handle the fact that women have voices now. You can't handle the fact that we're not going to sit quietly and let men get away with bad behavior anymore." Depp stood up as well, his voice cutting through the studio like a blade. "Joy, this has nothing to do with women having voices. This has everything to do with you using your voice irresponsibly and then hiding behind feminism when you're called out for it." The studio fell into an eerie silence as both Johnny Depp and Joy Behar stood facing each other across the curved desk, the weight of their confrontation hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. The other panelists sat frozen, unsure whether to intervene or let the explosive moment play out. "Hiding behind feminism?" Joy's voice was trembling with rage. "Johnny, you have some nerve coming on this show and attacking women who have spent their careers fighting for equality and justice." "Fighting for equality?" Depp's voice was incredulous. "Joy, you've spent your career tearing people down for ratings. There's nothing equal or just about destroying someone's life based on accusations that were never proven." Sunny Hostin finally found her voice, her legal background compelling her to speak. "Johnny, with all due respect, there was evidence presented in court that showed troubling behavior patterns. We can't just ignore that." Depp turned to face Sunny, his frustration evident. "Sunny, evidence can be manipulated, taken out of context, and weaponized. You should know that as a lawyer. But instead of waiting for the full picture, this panel chose to convict me in the court of public opinion." "Oh, please," Joy scoffed, still standing. "You're acting like you're some innocent victim here." The text alone showed a pattern of anger and violence that was deeply concerning. "Texts?" Depp's laugh was bitter. "Joy, have you never sent a text message in anger? Have you never vented to a friend about someone who hurt you? The difference is, your private moments aren't being dissected by millions of people looking for reasons to destroy you." Alyssa Farah Griffin looked uncomfortable as she tried to find middle ground. "Johnny, I think what Joy is saying is that when you're in the public eye, there's a higher standard of behavior that people expect." "Higher standard?" Depp's voice rose. "Alyssa, what about the higher standard of journalism? What about the higher standard of waiting for facts before rushing to judgment? What about the higher standard of treating people as innocent until proven guilty?" Whoopi had been unusually quiet, but now she leaned forward with a stern expression. "Johnny, I think you're being unfair to my colleagues here. We report on news, and your legal battles were news. Report on news? Depp's eyes flashed with anger. Whoopi, there's a difference between reporting news and creating a narrative. Joy didn't just report on my legal battles. She actively campaigned against me. She influenced public opinion before the facts were even established. Joy slammed her hand on the desk again. I campaigned for women who don't have the power and privilege that you have. I campaigned for victims who needed someone to speak up for them when they couldn't speak up for themselves. Victims? Depp's voice was dangerously quiet. Joy, what about the victims of false accusations? What about the people whose lives are destroyed by lies and manipulation? Don't they deserve someone to speak up for them? Sarah Haynes, who had been trying to stay neutral, finally spoke up with visible distress. I think we all need to take a step back here. This conversation is getting very heated, and I'm not sure this is productive for anyone. Productive? Joy whirled around to face Sarah. Sarah, some conversations need to be heated. Some topics are worth fighting for. We can't just sweep everything under the rug because it makes people uncomfortable. Depp seized on Joy's words. You're absolutely right, Joy. Some conversations are worth fighting for, like the conversation about how daytime television has become a weapon for character assassination, like the conversation about how panels like this one destroy people's lives without consequence. Sonny tried to interject. Johnny, that's not fair. We've had many guests on this show who have been given the opportunity to tell their side of the story. Tell their side? Depp's voice was incredulous. Sonny, I'm here trying to tell my side right now, and I'm being attacked for it. This isn't a conversation, it's an ambush. Joy's face was flushed with anger. An ambush? Johnny, you knew what kind of show this was when you agreed to come on. You knew we asked tough questions and don't softball celebrities. Tough questions? Depp's composure was hanging by a thread. Joy, there's a difference between tough questions and character assassination. A tough question would be asking about my upcoming projects or my creative process. What you're doing is relitigating a court case that's already been decided. Alyssa looked desperately at the producers off camera. Maybe we should consider taking that commercial break now. But Joy wasn't backing down. No, let's finish this. Johnny, you want to talk about court cases? Let's talk about the fact that you lost your initial case in the UK. Let's talk about the fact that multiple witnesses testified against you. Depp's eyes blazed with fury. Joy, you're proving my point exactly. You're cherry-picking facts to support your predetermined narrative. You're not interested in the truth. You're interested in being right. I am interested in the truth. Joy shot back. And the truth is that your behavior has been problematic for years, and instead of taking responsibility, you're blaming the media for reporting on it. Problematic behavior? Depp's voice was rising. Joy, what about your problematic behavior? What about the way you've used your platform to destroy careers? What about the way you've influenced millions of viewers to hate someone they've never met? Whoopi stood up, her voice commanding. All right, that's enough. Johnny, I think you need to calm down and remember where you are. Calm down? Depp turned to face Whoopi. Whoopi, I've been calm for years while people like Joy have been systematically destroying my reputation. I've been calm while my career was being dismantled by a mob mentality that this very show helped create. Joy's voice was shaking with rage. Mob mentality? Johnny, standing up for women who have been abused is not mob mentality. It's basic human decency. Standing up for women? Depp's laugh was harsh. Joy, you weren't standing up for women. You were standing up for your ratings. You were standing up for your agenda. You were standing up for everything except the truth. Sarah Haynes looked like she was about to cry. Please, can we just try to have a civilized conversation here? Civilized? Joy's voice was incredulous. Sarah, there's nothing civilized about what Johnny did. There's nothing civilized about his behavior, and there's nothing civilized about him coming on our show and attacking us for doing our jobs. Depp's patience finally snapped completely. Your jobs? Joy, your job is supposed to be informing the public, not manipulating them. Your job is supposed to be seeking truth, not creating controversy for profit. Don't you dare lecture me about my job. Joy's voice was venomous. I've been in this business longer than you've been acting, and I don't need some washed-up actor telling me how to do journalism. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The studio was completely silent, the audience holding its breath as they watched the confrontation reach its breaking point. Depp's voice became dangerously quiet. Washed-up actor? Joy. That's exactly the kind of personal attack that shows your true colors. You can't win the argument on facts, so you resort to insults. Insults? Joy's voice was defiant. Johnny, I'm just stating facts. Your career has been in decline for years, and instead of taking responsibility for your actions, you're blaming everyone else. Sunny tried desperately to intervene. Joy, maybe we should tone this down a bit. No, Joy's voice was firm. Sunny, I'm tired of walking on eggshells around men who can't handle being held accountable. Johnny needs to hear this. Depp's eyes were blazing with fury. Joy, you want to talk about accountability? Let's talk about your accountability. When was the last time you apologized for being wrong? When was the last time you took responsibility for the damage your words have caused? I don't owe you an apology. Joy's voice was ice cold. I don't owe any man an apology for speaking truth to power. Alyssa was frantically signaling to the producers. We really need to take a break now. But the confrontation had reached its climax, and there was no stopping it now. The tension that had been building throughout the interview was about to explode into something that would make daytime television history. The studio atmosphere was electric with tension as Johnny Depp and Joy Behar faced off in what had become the most explosive confrontation in The View's history. The other panelists sat helplessly watching as years of built-up frustration and animosity erupted into open warfare. Speaking truth to power? Depp's voice was filled with contempt. Joy, you wouldn't know truth if it slapped you in the face. You've built your entire career on sensationalism and character assassination. Joy's face was crimson with rage. Character assassination? Johnny, I didn't assassinate your character. Your character assassinated itself through your own actions. My own actions? Depp's composure was completely gone now. Joy, my actions were twisted and manipulated by people like you to fit a narrative that sold magazines and got ratings. You never cared about the truth. Whoopi was desperately trying to regain control. Johnny, Joy, please. This is getting out of hand. We need to take a step back. No, Whoopi. Joy's voice was defiant. I'm not backing down from this. Johnny came on our show to promote himself, and he's going to hear what I have to say. Depp laughed bitterly. Promote myself? Joy. I came on this show thinking I might get a fair interview. Instead, I walked into a lynch mob. Lynch mob? Joy's voice was incredulous. Johnny, you're being incredibly dramatic. We're asking legitimate questions about your behavior. Legitimate questions? Depp's voice rose to a shout. Joy, you haven't asked a single legitimate question. You've made accusations, you've passed judgment, and you've treated me like I'm guilty of crimes I was never convicted of. Sarah Haynes was visibly shaking. Please, can we just try to calm down and have a rational discussion? Rational? Joy turned on Sarah. Sarah, there's nothing rational about defending someone who has shown such problematic behavior patterns. Depp's eyes flashed with fury. Problematic behavior patterns? Joy, let's talk about your problematic behavior patterns. Let's talk about how you attack anyone who disagrees with you. Let's talk about how you use your platform to destroy people's lives. Sunny Hostin tried to be the voice of reason. Johnny, I think you're being unfair to Joy. She's been a champion for women's rights for decades. Women's rights? Depp's voice was dripping with sarcasm. Sunny, Joy doesn't champion women's rights. She champions her own agenda. She uses women's rights as a weapon to attack anyone she disagrees with. Joy slammed both hands on the desk. How dare you? How dare you come on my show and attack everything I've worked for? Your show? Depp's voice was dangerous. Joy, this isn't your show. This is supposed to be a panel discussion, but you've turned it into your personal vendetta platform. Alyssa was frantically waving at the producers. We really need to cut to commercial now. But Joy wasn't finished. Johnny, you know what your real problem is? You can't handle the fact that women aren't afraid of you anymore. You can't handle the fact that we're not going to sit quietly while men like you get away with everything. Men like me? Depp's voice was filled with venom. Joy, you don't know anything about men like me. You've created a fictional version of me in your head to justify your hatred. Fictional version? Joy's voice was shrill. Johnny, I've seen the evidence. I've read the court documents. I've heard the testimony. There's nothing fictional about your behavior. Depp leaned forward, his voice becoming deadly quiet. Joy, you've seen what you wanted to see. You've read what fit your narrative. You've heard what confirmed your bias. You never cared about the full picture. Whoopi stood up, her voice commanding. That's it. Johnny, I think you need to leave. Leave? Depp turned to face Whoopi, his voice incredulous. Whoopee, I'm being attacked by your co-host, and you're asking me to leave? You're being combative and disrespectful. Whoopi's voice was stern. This is not how guests behave on this show. Disrespectful? Depp's laugh was harsh. Whoopee, I've been disrespected from the moment I sat down. I've been treated like a criminal by people who appointed themselves as judge and jury. Joy's voice was triumphant. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Johnny can't handle being questioned by strong women, so he resorts to personal attacks. Personal attacks? Depp's voice was incredulous. Joy, you called me a washed-up actor. You've spent this entire interview attacking my character, my career, and my reputation, but somehow I'm the one making personal attacks? Sarah Haynes was on the verge of tears. Please, this is getting way too heated. Can we please just try to end this civilly? Civilly? Joy's voice was mocking. Sarah, there's nothing civil about what Johnny has done. There's nothing civil about his behavior, and there's nothing civil about him coming on our show and attacking us. Depp's patience finally exploded completely. Joy, you want to talk about what's not civil? What's not civil is destroying someone's reputation based on lies. What's not civil is influencing millions of people to hate someone they've never met. What's not civil is using your platform to ruin careers and lives. I didn't ruin your career. Joy's voice was cold. You ruined your own career, and now you're looking for someone to blame. Someone to blame? Depp's voice was filled with rage. Joy, I'm not looking for someone to blame. I'm looking at someone who helped orchestrate a character assassination campaign against me. Sonny tried desperately to intervene. Johnny, I think you're being unfair. Joy has always been an advocate for justice. Justice? Depp turned to face Sonny. Sonny, where's the justice in condemning someone before all the facts are in? Where's the justice in treating accusations as convictions? Whoopi's voice was firm. Johnny, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the set. This interview is over. Over? Depp's voice was incredulous. Whoopi, this interview was over before it started. You brought me here to be executed in public, not to have a conversation. Joy's voice was filled with satisfaction. Johnny, you're proving my point exactly. You can't handle being held accountable, so you're throwing a tantrum. A tantrum? Depp's voice was dangerous. Joy, standing up for yourself isn't throwing a tantrum. Defending your reputation isn't throwing a tantrum. What you've done to me, that's throwing a tantrum. Alyssa was practically pleading with the producers. Security. We need security. But Depp was already standing up, his voice cutting through the chaos. Don't worry, Alyssa. I'm leaving. But I want everyone watching to remember this moment. I want them to remember how I was treated here today. Remember what? Joy's voice was defiant. Remember how you couldn't handle being questioned? Remember how you attacked women who were just doing their jobs? Depp turned to face Joy one final time. Joy, I want them to remember how you used your platform to destroy someone's life. I want them to remember how you treated accusations as facts. I want them to remember how you showed no compassion, no fairness, and no integrity. Integrity? Joy's voice was shrill. Don't you dare lecture me about integrity. You have no right to talk about integrity after everything you've done. Depp's final words were delivered with devastating calm. Joy, the difference between you and me is that I've been held accountable for my actions in a court of law. You've never been held accountable for anything you've done from behind that desk. As Depp walked off the set, the studio fell into stunned silence. The other panelists sat in shock, processing what had just happened. Joy's face was flushed with victory, but there was something hollow in her eyes. Whoopi tried to salvage the situation. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our planned programming. But everyone knew that what had just happened would be talked about for years to come. The confrontation between Johnny Depp and Joy Behar had become a defining moment in daytime television history, a moment that showed just how quickly things could spiral out of control when personal vendettas collided with public platform. The cameras kept rolling as Depp disappeared through the studio doors, leaving behind a panel of women who had gotten exactly what they wanted, but at what cost? The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure whether they had just witnessed justice or character assassination. And that's how one of Hollywood's most controversial figures was kicked off one of daytime television's most influential shows in a confrontation that revealed the ugly truth about how the media treats celebrities who dare to fight back against the narrative. So what do you think? Was Johnny Depp out of line for defending himself so aggressively? Or was Joy Behar wrong to attack him so relentlessly? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more explosive celebrity confrontations and behind-the-scenes drama that you won't see anywhere else.